Chapter 1. Foundations of Glass. Jackson Jack Winter stared at the framed family photo on his desk, a reminder of what once was. At 42, he'd built everything from scratch. A respected position as head of security operations at Axiom Technologies, a modest but comfortable home in Portland, and 15 years of marriage to Diana. Their daughter, Abby, now 12, had inherited his analytical mind and Diana's artistic talent. The perfect blend, he used to think. The first cracks appeared 3 years ago. Jack's dedication to implementing cutting-edge security systems for government contractors meant long hours and frequent travel. Diana's art gallery had finally gained recognition, attracting wealthy clients and industry attention. They began living parallel lives, connected only through brief conversations about Abby's school schedule and household logistics. "You look like you're planning someone's funeral," said Noah Bryant, Jack's colleague, and one of his few genuine friends. Jack minimized the email he'd been reading, another passive-aggressive message from Diana about changing their custody arrangement. "Just thinking about the Richardson account? Because Stone is breathing down everyone's neck about it." "No, personal stuff." Jack rarely discussed his divorce, even with Noah. The humiliation still burned. Finding Diana with Victor Lowell, the gallery's wealthiest patron, had been bad enough. Discovering they'd been involved for over a year had gutted him. Well, snap out of it. Meeting in 5. Stone's bringing in some hotshot consultant to streamline operations. Noah made air quotes and rolled his eyes. As they walked to the conference room, Jack's phone buzzed with a text from his mother. "Need to talk about Christmas arrangements. Call us tonight." Jack's relationship with Robert and Patricia Winters had always been complicated. They'd never quite forgiven him for choosing security work over joining his father's accounting firm. When the divorce happened, they'd maintained a polite relationship with Diana for Abby's sake. Jack suspected they secretly blamed him for the marriage falling apart. Later that day, Jack picked up Abby from school. Her face lit up when she saw him waiting, but dimmed quickly as she got into the car. "What's wrong, kiddo?" he asked, recognizing the furrow in her brow that appeared whenever something troubled her. "Nothing." She stared out the window. "School okay?" "Fine." "Looking forward to winter break?" She shrugged. At a stoplight, Jack gently turned her face toward him. "Hey, whatever it is, you can tell me." Abby's eyes welled with tears. "Mom says I can't stay with you for New Year's like we planned. She and Victor are taking us to their cabin in Aspen. She already packed my things." Jack gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. This was the third time Diana had changed their custody agreement without consulting him. Each time, it involved Victor flaunting his wealth, expensive trips, exclusive events, using Abby as a pawn in their ongoing power struggle. "I told her I wanted to stay with you," Abby continued, wiping her eyes. "But she said opportunities like this don't come along often, and I should be grateful." The light turned green. Jack forced a smile. "We'll figure something out, okay? Maybe we can celebrate early." That night, after Abby went to bed, Jack called his parents. "We're not doing the usual family gathering this year," his mother announced without preamble. "Your father's back has been acting up, and we're just not up to hosting." "We could do it at my place," Jack offered. "Abby would love to see you both." A pause. "We were thinking something smaller this year. Just immediate family." The implication stung. Somehow, in his parents' eyes, he and Abby had become less immediate than Diana and her new life. "I understand," he said, though he didn't. "Maybe we could stop by briefly." "We'll see, dear. It's just been a difficult year financially. We're cutting back on everything, including gifts." After hanging up, Jack sat alone in his darkened living room. Something felt off about the conversation, but he couldn't place what. His parents had always been frugal but comfortable. His father's accounting firm was small but stable. That same night, in the sleek downtown penthouse that Victor Lowell called home, Diana was having a very different conversation. "They're on board," she told Victor as she slipped into bed beside him. "They've always adored you anyway." Victor smiled, the satisfied expression of a man accustomed to getting what he wanted. "Excellent." And Jack, clueless as always. Diana's laugh held a note of contempt. "He actually offered to host Christmas at his sad little house." "Let's focus on what matters," Victor said, pulling her close. Stone approved the restructuring proposal. Once it's implemented, Axiom will be positioned perfectly. And Jack, Victor's smile turned cold. By New Year's, your ex-husband will be nothing but an unpleasant memory. Neither of them noticed Abby standing in the hallway, having gotten up for a glass of water. She quietly returned to her room, clutching her phone, wondering if she should warn her father that something was very wrong. Chapter 2. The Christmas Deception. Snow fell gently outside Jack's apartment window as he wrapped the last of Abby's Christmas presents. He'd spent more than he should have: a new tablet for her digital art, books on animation, and art supplies, but seeing her face light up would be worth it. Despite Diana's last-minute schedule change, he'd managed to negotiate Christmas Eve with Abby. His phone buzzed. Noah's name appeared on the screen. "You're not going to believe this," Noah said without greeting. "Stone just called an all-hands meeting for December 27th. What? What? Organizational restructuring. You know what that means." Jack knew all too well. Layoffs just after Christmas. Any idea who's on the chopping block? Rumor is security operations is getting outsourced. That consultant's been meeting with the board all week. After hanging up, Jack tried to focus on wrapping presents, but Noah's news gnawed at him. Losing his job now, with alimony payments and Abby's upcoming school expenses, would be catastrophic. When Abby arrived the next morning, her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "What's wrong, kiddo?" Jack asked as they decorated their small artificial tree. "Nothing." She placed a handmade ornament on a branch. "Mom and Victor are throwing a huge Christmas party tomorrow. Grandma and Grandpa are coming." Jack froze. "Your grandparents are going to Diana and Victor's?" Abby nodded. "Mom said they RSVP'd weeks ago. The same parents who claimed they were too tired and broke for family gatherings were attending Diana's party." Jack swallowed his hurt and confusion. "Well, we're going to have our own special Christmas," he declared, forcing cheerfulness into his voice. "Hot chocolate, Christmas movies, and enough cookies to make us sick." That night, as Abby slept, Jack scrolled through social media, a habit he'd mostly broken after the divorce. Diana had blocked him, but her profile remained public. Her recent post showed elaborate party preparations, caterers setting up, florists arranging centerpieces, and Victor standing proudly beside a 12-foot Christmas tree surrounded by mountains of wrapped gifts. The caption read, "Final touches for tomorrow's celebration with those who truly matter. Hashtag family first, hashtag blessed life." Jack closed the app, feeling sick. Diana had always been image conscious, but this performative display of wealth seemed designed specifically to highlight the contrast between her new life and what he could provide. Christmas Eve with Abby was bittersweet. They baked cookies, watched holiday movies, and opened their gifts at midnight, a tradition from Jack's own childhood. Abby squealed with delight at the tablet and immediately started sketching. Jack's heart swelled watching her, momentarily forgetting his worries. The next morning, he drove her back to Diana's, where 2 luxury SUVs were parked in the driveway. He recognized his parents' vehicle immediately. "Do you want to come in?" Abby asked hopefully. "Say hi to Grandma and Grandpa." Jack shook his head. "I don't think that would be a good idea, honey, but I'll see you for New Year's, right? Before your Aspen trip?" Abby looked away. "Mom changed the dates. We're leaving tomorrow." The familiar anger surged, but Jack tamped it down. "Okay, we'll figure something out when you get back." As Abby walked toward the house, the front door opened. Diana emerged, immaculately dressed in an outfit that probably cost more than Jack's monthly rent. Behind her stood Victor, hand possessively on her waist. "Jack," Diana called with false warmth. "Would you like to join us? Your parents are here." Before Jack could respond, his mother appeared in the doorway, looking more elegant than he'd seen her in years, wearing what appeared to be a new dress and jewelry. "Jack, dear," what a surprise. The disconnect between her excited greeting and the conversation where she claimed they couldn't afford Christmas was jarring. Jack muttered an excuse about prior commitments and drove away, confusion and hurt churning in his stomach. Alone in his apartment, Jack mindlessly scrolled through TV channels, trying to distract himself from the emptiness. His phone buzzed with a notification. Diana had tagged his parents in a social media post. Against his better judgment, he clicked on it. The photos showed an elaborate Christmas dinner. His parents beamed alongside Diana, Victor, and Victor's two teenage children from a previous marriage. Present opening photos revealed clothing, electronics, and jewelry for everyone. His father was proudly displaying an expensive-looking watch, while his mother modeled a pearl necklace. Victor's kids were surrounded by boxes from high-end stores. The final photo showed everyone raising champagne glasses. Diana's caption read, "Best Christmas ever with real family. Some people may be blood, but family is about who truly belongs." Hashtag blessed, hashtag Christmas magic. Jack stared at the screen, the betrayal cutting deeper than anything since discovering Diana's affair. His own parents had lied about being unable to afford Christmas, only to lavish gifts on Diana, Victor, and Victor's children, while his daughter watched, understanding exactly what it meant. His phone rang. Abby's tearful voice came through before he could even say hello. "Dad, aren't we family?" The simple question broke something in Jack. "Of course we are, baby. You and me. We're always family." Then why did Mom say that? And why did Grandma and Grandpa bring all those presents for Jake and Madison, but nothing for me? Jack closed his eyes, rage building. "I don't know, honey. I heard Grandpa telling Victor that he's the son they never had." "Dad, what did I do wrong?" "Nothing," Jack said firmly. "You did nothing wrong. This is adult stuff, and it's messed up, but it has nothing to do with you." After calming Abby and promising to call her tomorrow, Jack sat in silence. Then he texted his parents a simple message. "I understand. We're done." He blocked their numbers and all social media accounts. Whatever game they were playing with Diana and Victor, he wanted no part of it. His focus needed to be on protecting Abby and himself from further hurt. 3 days later, Jack sat in the Axiom Technologies conference room as CEO Matthew Stone announced the strategic restructuring that would eliminate the entire security operations department, Jack's department. The work would be outsourced to a new company, Lowell Security Solutions, founded by none other than Victor Lowell. As colleagues around him reacted with shock and anger, Jack noticed Victor standing in the corner, smirking directly at him. This wasn't coincidence. This was calculated destruction. Chapter 3. Revelations and Rock Bottom. January brought relentless rain to Portland, matching Jack's darkening mood. The severance package from Axiom would cover expenses for 3 months at most. Job applications had yielded nothing. Every security firm in the area seemed mysteriously unreceptive to his resume. Noah, who'd also been laid off, met Jack at a dingy bar downtown. "It's like I've been blacklisted," Noah said, nursing a beer. 3 interviews canceled last week. One HR person actually told me off the record that someone had called about me. "Same here," Jack replied. "Victor's making sure we can't work in this field again. The bastard's systematic. Lowell Security Solutions is snapping up all the contracts and hiring everyone except our team." Jack's phone buzzed with a text from Abby. "Can you pick me up from school tomorrow? Mom's exhibition opening runs late." At least Diana couldn't take away his daughter, though she tried reducing his custody after the job loss, claiming financial instability. His lawyer had fought it off, but legal fees had drained his savings. The next day, picking up Abby proved to be the one bright spot in an otherwise brutal week. She climbed into his car, unusually quiet. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Grandma and Grandpa came to the house today," she said, staring out the window. They were crying. Jack's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What happened? They kept saying Victor tricked them. Mom was yelling, and Victor told them to leave. She looked at him with worried eyes. They said Victor took all their money. That night, after dropping Abby at Diana's, Jack researched Victor Lowell. Beyond the public image of successful businessman and art patron, there was surprisingly little information. His investment firm, Lowell Capital, managed funds for select private clients and had no public portfolio. Jack's doorbell rang near midnight. Opening it revealed his parents, looking nothing like the elegant couple from Diana's Christmas photos. His father's face was haggard, his mother's eyes red from crying. "Please," his mother said when he moved to close the door. "We need to talk to you." Against his better judgment, Jack let them in. They sat on his couch, looking diminished. Victor convinced us to invest our retirement money with him. His father explained, voice hollow. Said he could double our returns in 6 months. Special opportunity, very exclusive. Let me guess, Jack said coldly. The money's gone. His mother nodded, fresh tears falling. All of it, for $100,000. When we asked for statements, he said the market had shifted unexpectedly. When we pressed, he got angry, said we'd signed papers acknowledging the risk. And you trusted him more than your own son. The words came out sharper than Jack intended, but he couldn't contain the bitterness. We were wrong, his father admitted. About everything. Diana, she changed after marrying him. Became someone we didn't recognize. Why the Christmas charade? Telling me you had no money for gifts. Then showing up at their house with presents for everyone except your own granddaughter. His parents exchanged pained looks. Diana told us you'd forbidden Abby from accepting gifts from us, his mother said quietly. Said you were poisoning her against us because of the divorce. And you believed her? Jack stood, anger building. Without even asking me. We were wrong, his father repeated. We wanted to believe we hadn't lost you and Abby. Diana offered a way back into her life, and by extension, Abby's. He looked up, eyes pleading. She convinced us you were the problem. We were stupid. Jack wanted to throw them out, to hold on to his anger, but the defeated slump of his father's shoulders gave him pause. Why come to me now? We have nowhere else to go, his mother admitted. The house is mortgaged to the limit. We used that money to invest with Victor too. The realization dawned on Jack. The gifts at Christmas? The clothes, jewelry? All from Victor, his father confirmed. Said it was an advance on our guaranteed returns. Now we know it was just more manipulation. Jack paced his small living room, mind racing. Have you gone to the police? We consulted a lawyer, his father said. The paperwork we signed, it's legitimate. High-risk investment with no guarantees. We have no legal recourse. Later, after his parents left for a motel they could barely afford, Jack sat at his computer, diving deeper into Victor Lowell's background. The man had appeared in Portland 5 years ago, establishing himself quickly in the city's art scene. Before that, his history was murky, different names, different cities. A pattern emerged. Victor would integrate himself into wealthy communities, charm his way into exclusive circles, pursue relationships with well-connected women, and eventually vanish, leaving financial ruin in his wake. He operated just within legal boundaries, using charm and manipulation rather than outright fraud. Diana was just his latest conquests, useful for her connections to wealthy art collectors and, apparently, to Jack's position at Axiom. The security protocols Jack had implemented were likely valuable to someone with Victor's interests. As dawn broke, Jack's phone buzzed with a notification. Diana had posted on social media again. So thrilled to announce my promotion to Director of West Coast Operations for Lowell Capital's new art investment division. Some people mock package delivery as a career, but we can't all have real jobs with real impact. Hashtag bless life, hashtag career goals. The post included a photo of Diana in an elegant office, Victor's arm around her waist. Jack stared at the screen, confusion turning to rage as he realized the package delivery comment was aimed at him. He'd been forced to take a job with a courier service after weeks of unsuccessful interviews in his field. Whatever game Victor and Diana were playing, they weren't content with just winning. They needed to humiliate him completely. And they were using his daughter, his parents, and his career as pawns. Something shifted in Jack that morning. The man who had always played by the rules, who believed in fairness and justice, began to disappear. In his place grew something colder, more calculated. If Victor Lowell wanted war, Jack would give him one. But he would need allies, information, and a plan that would dismantle everything Victor had built. The rain continued to beat against his windows as Jack opened a new document on his computer and began to type. Operation Glasshouse. Chapter 4. Gathering Broken Pieces. February brought unseasonable warmth to Portland, as if the city were holding its breath for what would come. Jack had spent the last month meticulously building the foundation of his plan while maintaining a facade of defeat. The courier job provided more than just minimum wage. It gave him access to buildings, offices, and information that would otherwise be inaccessible. Each delivery to downtown high-rises was an opportunity to observe security protocols, note the habits of key players, and occasionally misdeliver packages that contained small devices capable of capturing network traffic. Today's route included the Bradbury Building, where Lowell Capital occupied the top 3 floors. As Jack entered the lobby in his courier uniform, he spotted a familiar face, Meredith Chun, Diana's former assistant at the gallery and one of the few people who had reached out to Jack after the divorce. "Jack," she approached cautiously. "I heard you were working somewhere else." The pity in her voice would have stung a month ago. Now Jack used it. "Yeah, doing what I can." "You still at the gallery?" Meredith glanced around and lowered her voice. "No, I'm with Lowell Capital now. Diana brought me over." She hesitated. "Can we talk?" "Not here." They arranged to meet after her workday at a coffee shop in a different neighborhood, far from anyone who might recognize them. Jack completed his deliveries, including one to the 14th floor of the Bradbury, 2 floors below Lowell Capital, but sharing the same HVAC system. The small device he left behind in a potted plant would capture wireless network traffic within range. At the coffee shop, Meredith looked nervous, constantly checking the door. "I shouldn't be talking to you. Diana would fire me if she knew." "Why did you want to meet?" Jack asked, studying her intently. "Because what they're doing isn't right." Meredith leaned forward. "Victor isn't who he claims to be. The art investment division is just a front. They're using client investments to fund their lifestyle while moving money through a series of shell companies." "You have proof?" She shook her head. "Not that I could take anywhere. Everything technically follows regulatory guidelines. It's just structured to benefit them regardless of how the investments perform." "And my parents?" Meredith looked pained. "They weren't the only ones. Victor targets people with significant savings but limited financial sophistication. Your parents were just convenient." Jack absorbed this information. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because of Abby." Meredith's eyes welled up. "The way they talk about you in front of her, it's cruel. And Diana's changed. Everything's about status now, impressing Victor's friends. Abby's like a prop they bring out when it suits their image." Before leaving, Meredith slipped Jack a USB drive. "Security camera footage from the Christmas party. I thought you should see it." That night, Jack watched as his parents arrived at Diana and Victor's home, bringing modest gifts, clearly all they could afford. Victor's mockery was subtle but unmistakable, guiding them to place their packages beside the mountain of expensive presents he'd provided. Most disturbing was Diana pulling Jack's mother aside, whispering something that made the older woman look stricken, then nodding tearfully. Now Jack understood. Diana had been poisoning his parents against him for months, possibly years. The final clip showed Abby sitting alone in the kitchen while the adults celebrated in the living room. When Victor's son deliberately knocked over her water glass, soaking the sketchbook Jack had given her, Diana simply laughed and handed the boy a towel, ignoring Abby's tears. Jack closed his laptop, cold fury replacing the hurt. This wasn't just about him anymore. The next day, Jack visited Noah, who had been forced to move to a smaller apartment after failing to find work in security. "I need your help," Jack said without preamble. "And it might not be entirely legal." Noah didn't hesitate. "After what Victor did to us, I'm in." Jack outlined his growing plan. "First, we need intelligence. Victor's operation has to have vulnerabilities. I still have contacts at Axiom," Noah offered. "People in IT who weren't laid off. They're not happy about the outsourcing." "Perfect. We also need to understand exactly how his investment scheme works." Over the next 2 weeks, their small team grew. Meredith provided internal documents and access codes. Noah's contacts at Axiom revealed that Lowell Security Solutions had implemented substandard systems, cutting corners to maximize profit. Jack's courier position allowed him to map the physical layouts of key buildings and identify potential entry points. They gathered in Jack's apartment, walls now covered with notes, diagrams, and timelines. "Victor's hosting a gala next month," Meredith reported. "All his major investors will be there. Diana's organizing it." "That's our window," Jack decided. "We'll need equipment." This led them to Miguel Ortiz, a former Axiom security specialist, now working as a bouncer at a downtown club. Like the others, he'd been blacklisted by Victor. You're talking about serious crimes, Miguel warned after hearing Jack's proposal. Breaking and entering, computer intrusion. I'm talking about justice, Jack countered. Victor destroyed lives and continues to do so. The system won't stop him. Miguel studied the plans. Even if you get the information, what then? Expose him? He has lawyers, connections. I don't want to expose him, Jack said quietly. I want to destroy him. Take everything, just like he took from us. As the others discussed logistics, Jack's phone rang, Abby's ringtone. He stepped away to answer. Dad, her voice was small, frightened. Can you come get me? What's wrong? Mom and Victor are fighting. He threw something, and it almost hit me. Mom said it was my fault for being in the way. Jack was in his car before the call ended. When he arrived at Diana's house, the front door was open. Inside, Diana was picking up pieces of a broken vase, her movements clumsy. The smell of alcohol was strong. Where's Abby? Jack demanded. Diana looked up, eyes unfocused. Jack, what are you doing here? Abby called me. Where is she? Upstairs, I think. Diana waved vaguely. Victor's out. Business dinner. Jack found Abby in her room, backpack already packed. Ready to go? She nodded, eyes red from crying. As they left, Diana stumbled into the hallway. You can't take her. It's not your night. Call your lawyer if you have a problem, Jack replied coldly. I'm sure the judge would be interested in hearing why Abby was dodging thrown objects tonight. Diana's face hardened. This won't end well for you, Jack. Victor will. Victor will what? Jack stepped closer, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Tell him I'm done being the victim. Whatever comes next, he brought on himself. That night, Abby slept in Jack's spare room while he finalized details with his team. Operation Glass House was taking shape, a multi-pronged attack designed to dismantle Victor's financial empire, expose his methods, and ensure he could never recover. The next morning, as Jack made breakfast, Abby watched him with solemn eyes. Are you going to fight them? Mom and Victor. Jack hesitated, then sat beside her. I'm going to make sure they can't hurt us anymore. Or anyone else. Abby nodded, surprising him with her maturity. Good. They deserve it. This might get complicated, Jack warned. People might say things about me. I don't care, Abby said firmly. You're my dad. We're family. Jack hugged her tightly, more determined than ever to see his plan through. For Abby, for his parents who had been manipulated and ruined, and yes, for himself, to reclaim what had been taken and ensure Victor Lowell would remember the name Jack Winters for the rest of his life. Chapter 5. The First Strike. March arrived with torrential rains, turning Portland streets into rushing streams. Jack watched from his apartment window as lightning split the sky, a violent backdrop to the storm brewing in his own mind. Operation Glass House had progressed from planning to implementation. Miguel had acquired the necessary equipment, surveillance devices, specialized tools for bypassing security systems, and custom software for penetrating networks. Noah had cultivated sources inside Axiom's remaining staff, gathering intelligence on Victor's new security protocols. Ironically, the same ones Jack had designed and Victor had claimed as his own innovation. Meredith continued providing insider information from Lowell Capital, though her position grew increasingly precarious. Diana's watching me, she reported during their latest meeting. She's paranoid, checking my computer when I step away. We're almost ready, Jack assured her. Once we move, your part will be done. That afternoon, Jack received an unexpected visitor, his father, looking older than his 65 years. I went to the bank today, Robert Winters said without preamble. Try to get a loan using the house as collateral. He shook his head. There's already a lien against it. Victor? No. Diana. Robert's voice cracked. She had us sign papers at Christmas. Investment documents, she said. We were so eager to believe her, to stay connected to Abby, that we signed without reading everything. Jack led his father to the kitchen table. What exactly did you sign? Turns out it included a personal guarantee secured by our house. When Victor's investment failed, the debt transferred to us. That's fraud, Jack insisted. You could fight it. Our lawyer says it would be her word against ours, and the documents have our signatures. Robert looked up, eyes haunted. Your mother had a minor stroke yesterday. Stress, the doctor said. Jack's hands clenched into fists. Where is she? Portland General. They're keeping her for observation. At the hospital, Jack found his mother looking frail in the sterile bed. She reached for his hand, tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Jack. We betrayed you, believed Diana's lies. It's not your fault, Jack said, meaning it. Victor and Diana are professionals at manipulation. We're losing everything, she whispered. The house, our savings. 50 years of work gone. Jack's phone buzzed with a text from Abby. Mom won't let me visit Grandma. Says I'll miss important social events. Dad, please help. He showed his mother the message. Diana's keeping Abby away from you now, too. Patricia Winters closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. She told us you were the one preventing visits. We believed her because it was easier than facing our own guilt for how we treated you. Jack stayed until visiting hours ended, then drove to Diana's house. Through the front windows, he could see an elegant dinner party in progress. Victor holding court in the dining room, Diana laughing at his side. No sign of Abby. He texted her, "Where are you?" "My room." Not allowed downstairs. Adult conversation happening. "Your grandmother's in the hospital. Want to visit her?" "Yes. But Mom took my shoes and coat as a precaution after I asked earlier." Jack's decision was immediate. He called Diana's phone, watching through the window as she checked the caller ID, frowned, and stepped away from the table to answer. "What do you want, Jack?" "We're in the middle of dinner." "I'm outside. Send Abby out with her coat and shoes. She's going to visit her grandmother in the hospital." Diana laughed. "It's not your night. Go away before I call the police." "Your choice," Jack replied calmly. "Either Abby comes out, or I come in and explain to your guests exactly who they're dining with." Through the window, he saw Diana's face tighten with anger. "You wouldn't dare. Try me." 3 minutes later, Abby emerged from the front door, coat hastily buttoned, backpack clutched to her chest. Diana watched from the doorway, face a mask of fury. "This isn't over," she called as Jack helped Abby into his car. "You're right about that," he replied, loud enough for the curious dinner guests now peering through the window to hear. "It's just beginning." At the hospital, Abby hugged her grandmother gently, careful of the 4 lines. "I'm sorry I didn't come sooner." "Not your fault, sweetheart," Patricia assured her. "Your mom and Victor have been controlling things." While Abby chatted with her grandparents, Jack stepped into the hallway to take a call from Noah. "We have a problem," Noah said without preamble. "Victor's bringing in a new security consultant for the gala. Someone who knows our methods." "Ooh, Stone from Axiom. They're partnering on some venture. If he recognizes any of our technical signatures." Jack considered this complication. "We need to accelerate the timeline. How soon can we move on phase 1? Equipment's ready. Miguel can install the devices tomorrow if we create a distraction." "Do it," Jack decided, "and tell Meredith to prepare the financial data. We move on Friday." Friday arrived with the first operation of their plan, installing surveillance equipment in Lowell Capital's offices and securing access to their networks. Miguel, posing as a maintenance worker, planted microscopic cameras in conference rooms and Victor's office. Meanwhile, Noah deployed specialized devices to capture network traffic and login credentials. The real breakthrough came when Meredith provided access to Diana's work computer. From it, Jack extracted emails revealing the extent of Victor's scheme, systematically targeting wealthy investors, using psychological manipulation to gain their trust, then structuring investments to fail while he profited. Most damning were communications between Victor and Diana discussing Jack's parents specifically. Robert and Patricia are perfect marks. They're desperate to maintain a connection to their granddaughter, and their guilt over siding with Jack makes them vulnerable. "We can easily secure their house as collateral." Diana's reply was equally calculating. "I've been conditioning them for months. They'll sign anything if they think it keeps them in Abby's life. The Christmas party will seal the deal." Jack forwarded these emails to his father's lawyer, who immediately began proceedings to challenge the lien on their house. But this was just the beginning. Phase 2 targeted Victor's reputation among his investors. Using the access they'd gained, Jack's team identified clients who had already lost money but were being strung along with promises of recovery. Noah created a secure, anonymous platform to share evidence of Victor's methods with these investors. The result was immediate and devastating. 3 major clients withdrew their investments, demanding audits. Others began asking uncomfortable questions. Victor's carefully constructed image began to crack. Diana, sensing trouble, increased her social media presence, posting photos of their luxurious lifestyle with captions emphasizing their success and happiness. Jack noted the defensive quality of these posts, the increasingly desperate need to maintain appearances. At his apartment, now serving as operation headquarters, Jack briefed his expanding team. 2 more former Axiom employees had joined, along with a forensic accountant who had reviewed the evidence against Victor. "He's panicking," Jack explained, showing them surveillance footage of Victor shouting at staff in his office. "Starting to make mistakes. Our sources say he's trying to liquidate assets and move money offshore." "What about Diana?" Meredith asked. "She's becoming suspicious of everyone. Yesterday, she fired her assistant for taking a phone call in the stairwell." Jack pulled up Diana's latest social media posts. "She's doubling down on the facade. Look at this." The post showed Diana in her office, caption reading, "While some people deliver packages, real executives make strategic decisions. So blessed to be partnered with a man of vision. Hashtag power couple, hashtag career goals." Noah snorted. "She really can't resist taking shots at you, can she?" "It's useful," Jack replied. "Keeps them focused on humiliating me publicly while we dismantle them from within." The next phase was more direct and more risky. Using the access they'd gained, Jack's team began systematically corrupting data in Lowell Capital systems. Not obvious enough to trigger immediate alarm, but sufficient to create inconsistencies in financial reports, client communications, and regulatory filings. Meanwhile, Jack had been cultivating a relationship with James Wilson, a financial journalist who had previously investigated investment frauds. Without revealing his identity, Jack provided Wilson with documentation of Victor's methods, including evidence related to cases in other cities where Victor had operated under different names. Wilson's resulting article didn't name Victor directly, but described patterns that matched his operation perfectly. Industry insiders immediately began connecting the dots. The pressure mounted when Jack anonymously delivered evidence of Victor's predatory targeting of elderly investors to the state attorney general's office. While careful not to implicate himself, Jack ensured the documentation was compelling enough to warrant preliminary investigation. Victor's response was predictable and exactly what Jack had anticipated. Rather than retreating or attempting damage control, Victor doubled down, hosting an extravagant party at his penthouse to demonstrate his continued success and influence. Jack watched from across the street as Portland's elite arrived, noting the absence of several key figures who had previously been Victor's strongest supporters. The cracks were widening. After the party, Jack received an unexpected call from Diana. "I know what you're doing," she said, voice slightly slurred. "Victor's onto you too. I have no idea what you're talking about. The client withdrawals, the questions, the regulatory interest, it all started after you threatened me at the dinner party." Diana's voice hardened. "Back off, Jack. You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Actually, I think I do." Jack kept his tone neutral. "How's the party? I noticed several important guests were missing. Temporary setbacks. Victor always comes out on top." She paused. "Stay away from us, Jack. For your own good." "Is that a threat?" "It's reality. Cross Victor, and you'll regret it." After hanging up, Jack called Noah. "They're getting nervous. Time to accelerate Phase 3. Phase 3 targeted Victor's connections to Axiom Technologies. Using evidence gathered from their surveillance, Jack's team exposed how Victor had deliberately sabotaged security protocols after taking over the contract, putting sensitive client data at risk while cutting costs to maximize profit. This information, delivered anonymously to Axiom's board and major clients, created immediate panic. Within days, Axiom announced they were reviewing all security contracts, including the one with Lowell Security Solutions. Victor, now fighting fires on multiple fronts, made his first major tactical error. He attempted to shift blame to former Axiom employees, specifically Jack, claiming they had deliberately created vulnerabilities before leaving. This accusation gave Jack exactly the opening he needed. Through his lawyer, he publicly demanded evidence of these claims, knowing none existed. When Victor failed to produce proof, Jack filed a defamation lawsuit, forcing the conflict into the open. Diana, increasingly unstable as pressure mounted, escalated her attacks on Jack on social media, now directly naming him and making claims about his character and parenting. These public outbursts provided Jack's lawyer with additional ammunition for restraining orders and custody modifications. By month's end, Victor's carefully constructed empire showed significant stress fractures. 3 major investors had withdrawn completely. Regulatory agencies had opened preliminary inquiries. Axiom was reconsidering their contract. And most satisfying to Jack, his parents' lawyer had successfully challenged the lien on their house, citing the emails proving deliberate manipulation. But Jack knew better than to underestimate Victor. The man had survived similar situations before by cutting losses, changing identities, and moving to new hunting grounds. The final phase of Operation Glasshouse needed to ensure that escape wasn't possible. As March ended, Jack received a text from an unknown number, Lowell moving assets offshore through shell company in Caymans. Diana liquidating art collection quietly. Plans to leave country by end of April. Friend. Jack smiled grimly. The prey was running. Time to close the trap. Chapter 6. Counterstrike and Consequences. April's gentle rains were deceptive, much like the apparent calm that had settled over the conflict between Jack and Victor. For 2 weeks, there had been no new public moves from either side. Victor had gone uncharacteristically quiet on social media, his usual stream of business achievements and social gatherings reduced to occasional bland corporate posts. Diana, too, had tempered her online presence, replacing mocking jabs at Jack with carefully curated images of professional success. To the outside world, it appeared the storm had passed. Jack knew better. They're consolidating, he explained to his team, now operating from a rented office space rather than his apartment. Cutting losses, securing core assets, preparing contingencies. Noah nodded. Our sources at Axiom confirm Victor's security contract is being terminated. Official announcement next week. What about Diana's art division? Jack asked. Meredith pulled up financial records on her laptop. Client withdrawals have accelerated. Most major investors have pulled out. She's selling gallery inventory at deep discounts, quietly, through private channels. And Abby? Miguel asked. Jack's expression darkened. Diana's fighting my custody modification request tooth and nail. Court date is still 3 weeks away. The temporary restraining order Jack had obtained after Diana's social media attacks had given him additional parenting time, but Diana was challenging it vigorously, hiring an aggressive attorney known for scorched earth tactics in divorce cases. We need to move faster on the financial tracking, Jack decided. If they're preparing to flee, we need concrete evidence before they can move the money. Their planning session was interrupted by Jack's phone, Abby's ringtone. Dad, her voice was hushed, frightened. I think something bad is happening. Jack immediately tensed. Where are you? Mom's office. I'm supposed to be doing homework in the conference room, but I heard shouting. Victor came in really angry about something called asset freezes. Mom's crying, and he's throwing things. Is the door locked? Are you safe? Yes. But Dad, he said your name. Said you'd regret being born when he's done. Jack's blood ran cold. Stay put. Lock the door. I'm coming to get you. After ensuring Abby would remain hidden, Jack briefed his team. Victor's cracking. Time to implement Contingency Plan Alpha. Contingency Plan Alpha had been developed for exactly this scenario. Victor becoming volatile and potentially dangerous. It involved immediate documentation of threats, police notification, and accelerated legal proceedings. Jack called his lawyer from the car, simultaneously texting Diana, I'm picking up Abby. She called me afraid because Victor is having a violent outburst. Police have been notified. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Diana's response was immediate. Don't you dare come here. Nothing is happening. Abby is fine. When Jack arrived at Lowell Capital's offices, he wasn't alone. Noah and Miguel positioned themselves discreetly in the lobby while Jack headed upstairs. His lawyer had arranged for a police officer to meet him there, citing concern for a minor's safety. The elevator opened to reveal Diana blocking the hallway, her normally perfect appearance disheveled. "You have no right to be here," she hissed. "This is private property." "Our daughter called me terrified," Jack replied evenly as the police officer stepped forward. "I'm here to ensure her safety." Diana's facade cracked slightly. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. My ex-husband is using our daughter to harass me at work." Before the officer could respond, a crash sounded from down the hall, followed by Victor's voice bellowing obscenities. The officer's demeanor immediately changed. "Ma'am, I need to check on the child's welfare." While Diana argued with the officer, Jack texted Abby, "We're here. Stay in the conference room." The confrontation escalated when Victor emerged from his office, face flushed with anger. Upon seeing Jack and the police officer, he froze momentarily, then composed himself with visible effort. "What's the meaning of this intrusion?" he demanded, straightening his tie. "Sir, we received a call concerning a child's safety," the officer explained. "I need to verify the minor is unharmed." Victor's smile was cold. "Of course. Diana, please show the officer that Abby is perfectly fine." Diana hesitated, then led the way to the conference room. The door was locked from the inside. "Abby, honey, can you open the door?" No response. Jack stepped forward. "Abby, it's Dad. You can open the door now." The lock clicked, and Abby emerged, phone clutched in her hand. She immediately moved to Jack's side. The officer took in the scene. Abby's frightened expression, Victor's barely controlled rage, Diana's uncharacteristic dishevelment. "I'd like to speak with the minor privately." What followed was a carefully orchestrated sequence that Jack had planned meticulously. While the officer interviewed Abby, Jack's lawyer arrived with emergency custody papers, citing the documented disturbance and Abby's recorded call as evidence of an unsafe environment. By day's end, Jack had temporary full custody, with Diana granted supervised visitation pending a full hearing. Victor, furious at this public humiliation, made his second critical error. He threatened Jack in front of witnesses, including the police officer. "You think you've won?" Victor snarled as Jack prepared to leave with Abby. "This is nothing. I will destroy you, your career, your entire existence." The officer stepped between them. "Sir, I strongly advise you to stop making threats." Victor sneered. "It's not a threat. It's a promise. Ask him about the break-ins at Lowell Capital, the corporate espionage. He's behind it all." Jack maintained a puzzled expression. "I have no idea what he's talking about. I'm just here for my daughter." The accusation, however, achieved exactly what Jack had anticipated. It gave him documented evidence of Victor's volatility and provided justification for the restraining order his lawyer filed immediately afterward. The following week brought Victor's counterattack. Using his remaining connections, he orchestrated a whisper campaign suggesting Jack had engaged in corporate sabotage. An anonymous tip to Jack's courier employer resulted in his termination. Private investigators began following Jack, photographing his movements and meetings. Most concerning was the break-in at Jack's apartment while he and Abby were visiting his mother at the hospital. Nothing was stolen, but the message was clear: Victor could reach them anywhere. Jack accelerated the final phase of Operation Glass House. Using the financial data Meredith had provided, his team traced the movement of funds through Victor's shell companies. The forensic accountant identified patterns consistent with money laundering and tax evasion. Not enough for criminal charges, but sufficient to interest regulatory authorities. Through James Wilson, the financial journalist, Jack arranged for a comprehensive expose on Victor's operations, timed to coincide with the quarterly filing deadlines for Lowell Capital. The article, meticulously documented and legally vetted, revealed Victor's pattern of targeting vulnerable investors, his history of leaving ruined lives in different cities, and his current efforts to move assets offshore ahead of potential regulatory action. The aftermath was swift and devastating. The Securities and Exchange Commission announced a formal investigation. 3 banks froze accounts associated with Lowell Capital pending review. Former clients filed lawsuits seeking to recover losses. Victor's response was to go on the offensive publicly, giving an interview claiming he was the victim of a coordinated smear campaign orchestrated by disgruntled former employees of Axiom Technologies, specifically naming Jack. "This is corporate terrorism," Victor declared to a business reporter. Jack Winters couldn't accept being replaced by superior talent, so he's fabricated this entire narrative to destroy a legitimate business. The interview provided Jack with exactly the opening he needed. Through his lawyer, he filed a second defamation lawsuit, forcing Victor to either produce evidence of his claims or retract them publicly. Meanwhile, Diana began distancing herself from Victor's business operations, claiming in supervised visitations with Abby that she had been misled about the nature of Victor's investments. This transparent attempt to salvage her position only strengthened Jack's custody case. The pressure built when 2 former associates of Victor from different cities came forward with stories matching the pattern Wilson had described in his article. These testimonials corroborated the evidence Jack had accumulated, lending credibility to the emerging narrative of Victor as a sophisticated predator rather than a legitimate businessman. As April neared its end, Victor made his most desperate move yet. Using private investigators, he uncovered connections between Jack and Noah, Meredith, and Miguel. He attempted to have criminal charges filed, claiming they had conspired to hack Lowell Capital's systems and steal proprietary information. The police investigation that followed was exactly what Jack had prepared for. All the surveillance equipment Miguel had installed had been done through a legitimate front company with proper work orders authorized by Meredith in her capacity as an executive assistant. The network access Noah had utilized came through credentials Meredith had provided as part of her job duties. Most importantly, no actual theft of funds had occurred, only documentation of Victor's own illegal activities. The investigation quickly shifted focus from Jack's team to Victor himself when evidence of his offshore accounts and tax discrepancies emerged during the review of Lowell Capital's records. By month's end, Victor's empire was crumbling. Lowell Security Solutions lost its last major contract. The art investment division Diana headed was shut down amid client withdrawals. Regulatory freezes prevented access to most of their liquid assets. In a last desperate gambit, Victor attempted to leave the country, only to be stopped at the airport due to a court order requiring him to remain available for ongoing legal proceedings. Diana, realizing the sinking ship could no longer sustain her lifestyle, filed for divorce from Victor, her 3rd divorce in 10 years, as Jack's research had revealed. Jack watched these developments with cold satisfaction, but he knew better than to celebrate prematurely. Victor was wounded, but not destroyed. Diana was already positioning herself as a victim rather than a co-conspirator. And the final phase of Operation Glasshouse, the most dangerous and personal, was yet to come. On the last day of April, as Jack prepared Abby for bed in their new, more secure apartment, she asked the question he'd been dreading. "Is it over, Dad? Did we win?" Jack sat beside her on the bed. "Not yet, honey, but we're getting there. What happens next?" Jack thought of the final pieces moving into position. The offshore account traces, the documentation of Victor and Diana's manipulation of his parents, the evidence of their deliberate campaign to destroy his career and reputation. "Justice," he said simply, "and then we can start over. Just us." Abby hugged him tightly. "Promise we'll always be family? No matter what. I promise." Jack kissed the top of her head, his resolve hardening. For Abby, for his parents, for himself, Victor and Diana would pay the full price for their betrayal. Not just financially or professionally, but personally. They would experience exactly what they had inflicted on others, complete and devastating loss. The endgame was set for May. One final, irrevocable strike that would ensure Victor Lowell and Diana would never recover. Chapter 7. Checkmate in Motion. May in Portland brought sunlight and blooming flowers, a stark contrast to the storm Jack was about to unleash. Operation Glasshouse had entered its final, most crucial phase. Everything's in position. Noah reported during their early morning meeting at the secure office space. Financial traces complete, offshore accounts documented, communication records secured. Jack reviewed the detailed timeline on his laptop. What about Diana's movements? Meredith pulled up a surveillance report. She's filed for divorce from Victor, but still living in the penthouse. Her lawyer is negotiating for her to keep the art collection and property in exchange for her cooperation with authorities investigating Victor. Classic Diana, Jack remarked, always looking for the exit strategy that preserves her lifestyle. Miguel entered with coffee for everyone. Police just picked up Victor for questioning regarding tax discrepancies. Our contact says he'll be released by afternoon, but they confiscated his passport. Jack nodded. Perfect timing. What about the gala tonight? Still proceeding? Meredith confirmed. Diana's doubling down on appearances. Social media full of business as usual posts. She's positioning it as her solo venture now. Victor's name scrubbed from all promotions. The gala had been planned months earlier as Lowell Capital's signature event, an exclusive gathering of Portland's elite at the Crystal Ballroom. Now, with Victor under investigation and the company in turmoil, Diana had rebranded it as a showcase for her independent art investment venture. She's using it to launch her rebrand, Jack noted, distancing herself from Victor while keeping the connections he built. Typical, Noah agreed. She did the same thing after your divorce. Kept the social circle, painted herself as the victim. Jack checked his watch. My court appearance is in 2 hours. Once that's complete, we move to final positions. The family court hearing was brief but decisive. Armed with documentation of Diana's involvement in Victor's schemes, evidence of her attempts to alienate Abby from Jack and his parents, and testimony from the police officer who had witnessed Victor's volatile behavior, Jack's lawyer made a compelling case for permanent modification of the custody arrangement. Diana's attorney attempted to portray her as an unwitting victim of Victor's manipulation, but fell silent when Jack's lawyer produced emails showing her active participation in targeting Jack's parents and sabotaging his career. The judge's ruling granted Jack primary physical custody, with Diana allowed supervised visitation twice monthly. More importantly, Diana was ordered to pay child support based on her income from the gallery and investments, an ironic reversal of the financial burden she had tried to impose on Jack after the divorce. Outside the courthouse, Diana confronted Jack, her composure slipping. You think you've won? This is temporary. I'll appeal. You're welcome to try, Jack replied calmly. But I'd focus on your more immediate problems. The forensic accountants are finding interesting patterns in your financial records. Color drained from Diana's face. What are you talking about? Your independent investments. The ones you managed separately from Victor. Did you really think no one would notice the similarities to his methods? Diana's eyes darted nervously. You're bluffing. There's nothing to find. We'll see. Jack turned to leave, then paused. Enjoy your gala tonight. I hear it might be your last for a while. The threat left Diana visibly shaken, exactly as Jack had intended. A panicked Diana would make mistakes, accelerate her plans, and potentially incriminate herself further. Back at their operations center, final preparations were underway. The team had expanded to include 2 former regulatory investigators who had been consulting on the financial trail, a cybersecurity specialist monitoring digital communications, and James Wilson, now fully briefed on the complete scope of Victor and Diana's operations. Diana will be scrambling after the court ruling, Jack explained. She'll try to secure assets, reach out to allies, possibly accelerate plans to relocate funds. We need to capture all of it. Noah's team had already positioned surveillance at key locations: Diana's home, her gallery, the Crystal Ballroom where the gala would be held. Meredith's inside access provided real-time monitoring of Diana's communications with lawyers, financial advisors, and remaining clients. Most crucial was the evidence Jack had been assembling for months. A comprehensive dossier documenting not just Victor's predatory investment schemes, but Diana's equal partnership in them. This included her targeting of Jack's parents, her manipulation of custody arrangements to maintain appearances, and her deliberate campaign to destroy Jack professionally and personally. This dossier had been carefully structured into 3 components: financial crimes for regulatory authorities, personal misconduct for family court, and a narrative account for media distribution. Each was legally vetted, meticulously sourced, and designed to withstand the inevitable challenges. As evening approached, Jack met with his parents at their home, saved from foreclosure after the lien was invalidated. His mother, recovered from her stroke but still moving slowly, hugged him tightly. "Are you sure about tonight?" she asked. "It seems risky." "It's necessary," Jack replied. Diana is trying to separate herself from Victor, preserve her position and connections. If she succeeds, she'll rebuild and continue the same patterns. His father nodded solemnly. "Just be careful. Victor may be cornered, but that makes him more dangerous." Jack checked his phone. A message from Noah confirming video feeds were active at all targeted locations. Everything's in place. By morning, it will be over. While Diana prepared for her gala, presenting a facade of untroubled success to Portland society, Jack's team executed the final phase of Operation Glasshouse. First, the financial component. Using the traces they'd established through Victor and Diana's offshore accounts, they documented the movement of funds from investor accounts through a series of shells and, ultimately, to personal holdings. This evidence was simultaneously delivered to the SEC, IRS, and state financial regulators, triggering immediate freezes on all associated accounts. Second, the professional component. James Wilson's comprehensive expose went live on a major financial news site, detailing not just Victor's schemes, but Diana's equal culpability. The article included testimonials from victims in multiple cities, documentation of their methods, and expert analysis of their financial manipulations. Third, the personal component. A carefully edited video compilation showing Diana's contradictory statements about Jack, her role in manipulating his parents, and her use of Abby as leverage was distributed to family court officials, mutual acquaintances, and key figures in Portland's art community, the same people currently attending her gala. At the Crystal Ballroom, Diana was midway through her carefully rehearsed speech about new beginnings and artistic integrity when phones began buzzing throughout the room. Confused looks and whispers spread as guests viewed the incoming notifications, news alerts about the investigation, Wilson's article, and the video evidence. Diana, sensing the shift in atmosphere, faltered in her presentation. When she checked her own phone during a supposed pause for dramatic effect, her face went ashen. Simultaneously, at Victor's downtown apartment, police arrived with warrants related to the financial evidence Jack's team had provided. The offshore account documentation had triggered automatic flags in several regulatory systems, escalating what had been preliminary inquiries to formal investigations. Victor, already under pressure from earlier questionings, made his final catastrophic error. He attempted to flee through a service exit, only to be apprehended by officers positioned there based on intelligence from Jack's surveillance. Back at the gala, Diana's carefully constructed facade crumbled as guests began making excuses and leaving. Her attempts to damage control, claiming misunderstandings, promising explanations, fell on increasingly deaf ears as more details emerged through social media and breaking news alerts. The final blow came when her own lawyer called, informing her that in light of the new evidence, he could no longer represent her. As Diana stood alone in the rapidly emptying ballroom, her phone buzzed with a text from Jack. "How does it feel to lose everything? To watch people you thought were friends turn their backs? To know your reputation, your career, your future are destroyed? Now you understand what you tried to do to me. The difference is you earned this." Diana's response was a single word: "How?" Jack didn't reply. The question itself was victory enough. The realization that she had been systematically outmaneuvered by the man she had dismissed as inconsequential, the husband she had betrayed and attempted to destroy. By midnight, both Victor and Diana were in custody. Victor for attempted flight to avoid questioning. Diana after attempting to access frozen accounts at an ATM and becoming belligerent with responding officers. At his new apartment, Jack sat with Abby, who had fallen asleep watching a movie. His phone continuously updated with reports from team members monitoring the situation. Noah confirmed Victor would remain in custody pending formal charges. Meredith reported that Diana's remaining clients were publicly distancing themselves from her. Miguel verified that all surveillance equipment had been removed, leaving no trace of their operation. Jack sent a group message to the team. Phase complete. Stand down. Thank you all. As he closed his laptop, Jack felt not the triumph he had expected, but a quiet sense of justice served. Victor and Diana had destroyed lives without remorse, using people as stepping stones to wealth and status. They had targeted his family, manipulated his parents, attempted to alienate his daughter, and systematically dismantled his professional reputation, all while mocking his efforts to rebuild. Now they would experience what they had inflicted on others, not through illegal means or direct action on Jack's part, but through the exposure of their own crimes and manipulations. The system they had exploited would now process them accordingly. Jack received one final message that night from James Wilson, story going national tomorrow. Interviews requested. Your name kept out as requested, but authorities will eventually connect dots. Prepared for that. Jack replied simply, let them. Everything we did was documenting their own actions. The truth speaks for itself. As May's first week concluded, the full extent of Victor and Diana's operations became public knowledge. Investigations expanded to include their activities in previous cities, uncovering patterns of financial predation dating back years. Former victims came forward, empowered by the exposure, adding to the mounting legal challenges. Victor remained in custody, denied bail due to flight risk. Diana, released on bond, found herself increasingly isolated as former friends and associates avoided association with the growing scandal. The gallery closed, her art connections evaporated, and a lifestyle she had cultivated through manipulation and betrayal disintegrated. Jack's parents began recovery proceedings against both Victor and Diana, joining a growing class action lawsuit representing dozens of defrauded investors. The evidence Jack had gathered ensured these claims would be difficult to dismiss or delay through legal maneuverings. Most importantly to Jack, Abby was now protected from Diana's manipulations. The custody ruling, reinforced by evidence of Diana's character and conduct, created a stable foundation for Abby's future, one where she wouldn't be used as a pawn or status symbol. Operation Glass House had achieved its objectives more completely than Jack had dared hope. Victor and Diana's carefully constructed world of illusion and exploitation had been systematically dismantled, leaving them to face the consequences of their actions. The final phase, reconstruction, could now begin. For Jack, Abby, and his parents, it was time to build something authentic from the ruins of betrayal. Chapter 8. The Unraveling. The summer heat arrived early in Portland, bringing with it a steady stream of revelations as Victor and Diana's empire continued to collapse under legal and public scrutiny. Jack observed the unfolding drama from a calculated distance, having stepped back from active involvement once the evidence was in official hands. His focus shifted to rebuilding his relationship with Abby, his parents' financial security, and his own professional standing. June brought the first formal indictments against Victor: tax evasion, wire fraud, and financial misconduct charges that carried potential decades in prison. His legal team's attempts to secure bail continued to fail as more victims came forward, strengthening the prosecution's argument that he remained a flight risk. Diana, though not yet indicted, faced mounting civil litigation. Former clients of her gallery filed suits, claiming she had deliberately misrepresented investments. The art world that had once embraced her now treated her as toxic, canceling exhibitions and severing partnerships. Jack monitored these developments while pursuing his own recovery. Through contacts Noah had maintained, he secured a position with a cybersecurity firm specializing in financial systems protection. Ironically, the same expertise he had employed to document Victor's crimes. His first major project involved developing protocols to prevent exactly the type of manipulation Victor and Diana had perpetrated. The irony wasn't lost on Jack, who now used his understanding of their methods to create safeguards for potential victims. Abby thrived under the new custody arrangement, her artistic talents flourishing without the pressure Diana had imposed to maintain appearances. She spent weekends with Jack's parents, rebuilding the relationship Diana had systematically undermined. One warm evening, as Jack prepared dinner in their apartment, Abby looked up from her sketchbook. "Dad, is Mom going to jail like Victor?" Jack paused, choosing his words carefully. "I don't know, honey. That's up to the courts to decide. Do you want her to?" Abby's directness sometimes caught him off guard. "What I want," Jack said after a moment, "is for her to understand what she did wrong and take responsibility for it, and for you to be protected from being hurt again." Abby nodded thoughtfully. "Mrs. Chun came to school today." "Meredith?" Jack was surprised. Meredith had maintained a low profile since providing crucial evidence against her former employers. "She's teaching in our class now. She saw me and looked scared, but I told her it was okay. She asked how we were doing." "What did you tell her?" Abby shrugged. "That we're okay now. That you smile more." Jack realized it was true. The consuming focus on revenge had lifted, replaced by something calmer but no less determined. A commitment to rebuilding rather than retaliating. Later that night, Jack received an unexpected call from his lawyer. "Diana's attorneys have proposed a settlement," she explained. "She's offering to relinquish all claims to custody in exchange for dropping the civil suits your parents are pursuing." "That's unexpected," Jack replied, suspicious of Diana's motives. "What's her angle?" "From what I gather, she's attempting to negotiate a cooperation agreement with prosecutors. Reduced charges in exchange for testimony against Victor. Having these civil matters resolved would strengthen her position." Jack considered this. She's cutting Victor loose to save herself. Classic Diana. "Do you want to consider the offer?" "Let me discuss it with my parents. I'll call you tomorrow." The conversation with Robert and Patricia Winters was brief but decisive. "We don't need her money," his father said firmly. "The house is secure now, and your mother's health is improving. What we want is for Abby to be protected. If Diana relinquishes custody claims," his mother added, "that would give you the security to make decisions without her interference." Jack nodded. "That's my thinking too. The money was never the point." The next day, Jack authorized his lawyer to negotiate terms. Full legal custody to Jack, with Diana permitted annual supervised visitation contingent on good behavior and compliance with all court orders. In exchange, the Winters family would withdraw from the civil litigation, though this would not affect the criminal investigations. Diana accepted immediately, confirming Jack's suspicion that she was positioning herself to minimize potential criminal exposure. The formal agreement was filed with the court the following week, effectively removing Diana's legal connection to Abby except for the limited visitation rights. July brought the next phase of the legal proceedings. Victor's trial date was set for October, while Diana received formal notification that she was under investigation for financial crimes related to the Art Investment Division. Her cooperation agreement with prosecutors remained under negotiation, with Victor's legal team attempting to discredit her as a witness. Jack maintained his professional focus, his new position bringing both financial stability and the satisfaction of creating systems that would prevent others from experiencing what his family had endured. The cybersecurity firm, impressed with his insights, promoted him to lead a specialized team developing financial protection protocols. The team he had assembled for Operation Glasshouse gradually dispersed to their own recoveries. Noah joined a competing security firm, occasionally consulting with Jack on joint projects. Meredith expanded her art education work, finding purpose in teaching rather than selling. Miguel established his own private security consultancy, specializing in executive protection, ironically receiving inquiries from some of Victor's former associates now concerned about their own vulnerability. By August, the media frenzy had largely subsided, the story of Victor and Diana's downfall becoming yesterday's news as fresher scandals emerged. This suited Jack perfectly, allowing him to rebuild without constant reminders of the past. The final confirmation of Victor's fall came in late August, when his remaining assets were liquidated through court-ordered sales to satisfy mounting judgments. The penthouse where he had hosted lavish parties, the cars, the art collection, all sold at fraction of their value, the proceeds directed to a victim compensation fund. Diana, now living in a modest apartment across town, attempted to rebuild her own image through carefully orchestrated public statements expressing shock at Victor's activities and positioning herself as another victim. Few in Portland society accepted this narrative, particularly after Wilson's comprehensive reporting had documented her active participation. September brought unexpected closure from an unlikely source. Jack received a call from a prison administrator. Victor wanted to meet with him. "Absolutely not," was Jack's immediate response. "He claims to have information regarding your parents' missing investments," the administrator explained. "Something not covered in the court proceedings." After consulting with his lawyer, Jack agreed to a monitored meeting at the detention center where Victor awaited trial. He found Victor much changed, the confident, commanding presence replaced by a hollow-eyed man in a prison jumpsuit. "You destroyed me," Victor said without preamble, his voice lacking the arrogance Jack remembered. "You destroyed yourself," Jack corrected. "I just documented it." Victor laughed bitterly. "Such righteousness. As if you didn't orchestrate every step of my downfall. You mentioned information about my parents' investments." Victor leaned forward. "Diana took it, not me. The money your parents invested, she diverted it directly. Never even entered the company accounts." Jack studied him skeptically. "Why tell me this now?" "Because she's cutting a deal to testify against me, claiming she was manipulated." Victor's eyes narrowed. "She wasn't manipulated. She was the architect of half of it. The targeting of your parents? That was her idea entirely. And I'm supposed to believe you're suddenly concerned with truth?" Victor shrugged. "Believe what you want, but check account number 85721 at First Mercantile. Opened in her maiden name, Diana Chambers. That's where your parents' money went. Not to investments, not to my accounts. Directly to her personal use." After the meeting, Jack shared this information with the prosecutors and his parents' lawyer. Preliminary investigation confirmed Victor's claim. A separate account existed, and transactions matched the timeline of his parents' investment. This revelation led to Diana's cooperation agreement collapsing, as prosecutors now viewed her as equally culpable rather than a lesser participant. New charges were filed specifically related to the theft from the Winters family, undermining her carefully constructed victim narrative. Diana's response was desperate. She attempted to flee Portland, only to be detained at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport attempting to board a flight to Mexico. Like Victor before her, she now faced trial from a detention cell rather than the comfort of bail release. October brought Victor's trial, a 3-week proceeding that documented his predatory practices across multiple cities and years. Jack attended key sessions, observing the man who had attempted to destroy him, facing the full weight of his accumulated crimes. The jury deliberated less than 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts. The judge, citing the calculated nature of the crimes and the vulnerability of many victims, imposed the maximum sentence, 22 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole until at least 15 were served. As Victor was led from the courtroom, he locked eyes with Jack briefly. No words were exchanged, but the message was clear: acknowledgement of complete defeat. Diana's case moved more slowly, complicated by the new evidence regarding the Winters family funds. Her legal team repeatedly sought delays, hoping media attention would fade further. By year's end, however, she too faced trial, eventually accepting a plea agreement that included 5 years in prison and forfeiture of all remaining assets to victim compensation. For Jack, the legal proceedings provided closure, but not satisfaction. The true victory had come not from Victor and Diana's punishment, but from the rebuilding that followed their removal from his family's life. Abby continued to flourish, her artistic talents developing under positive guidance rather than Diana's status-focused pressure. Jack's parents recovered financially and emotionally, their relationship with their son and granddaughter stronger than before the ordeal. Jack's professional reinvention proved more successful than he had anticipated. The cybersecurity firm expanded his division into a full department, positioning him as a recognized expert in financial system protection. The knowledge gained through documenting Victor's methods now served to protect countless potential victims from similar schemes. The final chapter of the saga came unexpectedly, a year after Victor's conviction. Jack received a letter from Diana, sent from the federal correctional facility where she was serving her sentence. The letter contained no apologies, no acceptance of responsibility, just a single question. Was it worth it? Jack never replied. The answer was evident in a life he had rebuilt from the ruins of their betrayal. A life with authentic relationships, meaningful work, and a future unclouded by manipulation and deceit. For Diana, imprisoned with nothing but time to contemplate her choices, Jack's silence was answer enough. Chapter 9. Foundations Rebuilt. 5 years passed like the turning of seasons, distinct yet flowing seamlessly one into another. Portland changed, as cities do, but the truly profound transformations occurred within the lives of those who had weathered the storm of betrayal and emerged stronger. Jack, now 47, sat in his office at Winter Shield Security, the firm he had founded 3 years after Victor's conviction. The company had grown from his initial team of 5 to over 50 employees, specializing in protecting financial institutions and investors from sophisticated fraud schemes. The framed article on his wall told part of the story, from victim to vigilant, how Jack Winters transformed personal betrayal into protection for others. The industry recognition had come after his security protocols helped uncover 3 major investment frauds before significant damages occurred. His assistant interrupted his review of quarterly reports. "Your daughter's here." Abby entered with the confident stride of her 17 years. Her artistic talent now refined into a distinctive style that had earned her early acceptance to Rhode Island School of Design. She dropped her portfolio on the chair and grinned. "Dad, you'll never guess who called me." Jack smiled. "Based on that expression, I'd say RISD with a scholarship offer. Full ride." She launched herself into a hug that nearly knocked him over. "The portfolio you helped me put together clinched it. I just provided the technical setup for your digital submission. The talent is all yours." Speaking of talent, Abby continued, "Noah called. Said to tell you the Richardson implementation is complete and something about Victor 2.0 being contained." Jack nodded, understanding the coded message. Noah, now Winter Shield's chief technology officer, had been monitoring an investment scheme targeting elderly Portland residents, one bearing uncomfortable similarities to Victor's methods. The containment meant evidence had been delivered to authorities before significant losses occurred. "How are Grandma and Grandpa? Still enjoying Florida?" "Loving it. Grandpa's teaching a financial literacy course at the senior center. He says it's inoculating potential victims." Robert and Patricia Winters had relocated to Florida 3 years earlier, their financial security restored through the Victim Compensation Fund and smart management of their remaining assets. Robert's new mission, educating seniors about investment fraud, had given him purpose beyond retirement. After Abby left for her afternoon art class, Jack reviewed the Richardson implementation details Noah had sent. The security system they developed incorporated lessons learned from documenting Victor's methods, creating tripwires that would alert compliance officers to patterns associated with predatory investment schemes. A notification appeared on his screen, an email from James Wilson, the journalist whose reporting had helped expose Victor and Diana. Now a respected author on financial crimes, Wilson occasionally consulted with Winter Shield on identifying emerging fraud patterns. "Thought you might want to know, Victor Lowell denied parole for the 2nd time. Diana Chambers completed her sentence last month, relocated to Arizona. Neither returned to the financial sector. Your work continues to protect people long after their removal. Well done." Jack closed the email without responding. He rarely thought about Victor or Diana anymore, their significance in his life diminishing with each passing year. The lessons learned, however, remained invaluable, both professionally and personally. That evening, Jack hosted a small dinner gathering at his home overlooking the Willamette River. Noah and his wife, Meredith and her partner, Miguel and his family. The core group that had formed during Operation Glass House had evolved into genuine friendships that extended beyond their shared past. To 5 years of Winter Shield, Noah proposed a toast. And to the man who turned a personal vendetta into a mission. Jack raised his glass. To all of you. I couldn't have done it alone. Later, as the gathering wound down, Meredith found Jack on the deck, watching the city lights reflect on the river. Have you heard from her? Meredith asked quietly. Since her release? Jack shook his head. No. Wilson mentioned she's in Arizona now. Does Abby know? She knows Diana's out. She doesn't want contact. Jack turned to face his friend. Diana sent graduation cards the first few years from prison. Abby never opened them. Meredith nodded, understanding. Some wounds don't heal with apologies. I don't think Diana is capable of genuine apology, Jack replied. Her letters to Abby never acknowledged responsibility. Just vague references to misunderstandings and difficult circumstances. The conversation shifted to happier topics. Abby's college plans, Noah's new baby, Miguel's son's baseball scholarship. Lives moving forward, no longer defined by what had been lost, but by what had been built in its place. The next morning, Jack reviewed applications for Winter Shield's Victim Advocacy Program, a foundation he had established to provide legal and financial support to those affected by investment fraud. The program embodied the philosophy that had emerged from his own experience. Protection required more than just security systems. It needed human connection and practical assistance for those already harmed. His assistant announced an unexpected visitor, Detective Karen Reeves, the officer who had been present during the confrontation at Lowell Capitol years earlier. Now a lieutenant with the Financial Crimes Division, she occasionally collaborated with Winter Shield on cases. Sorry to drop in unannounced, she said, taking the offered seat. Thought you should hear this directly rather than through channels. Jack felt a momentary tension. Something about Diana? Reeves nodded. She's back in Portland. Showed up yesterday, checked into a hotel downtown. Given your history, we're keeping an eye on the situation, but legally. She served her sentence. Jack completed the thought. No restrictions on movement. Exactly. Just wanted you to be aware. After Reeves left, Jack called his lawyer to verify that the custody agreement remained in force despite Diana's release. It did, giving Jack sole legal custody until Abby turned 18, with any visitation requiring Abby's consent and court approval. He then called Abby, who was preparing for afternoon classes. Diana's back in Portland, he said simply. A pause. Does she know where we live? Not from any official source, but assume she could find out. What do you think she wants? Jack considered the question. Probably to see you. Possibly to attempt some form of reconciliation or explanation. I don't want to see her. Abby's voice was firm. I haven't opened a single letter in 5 years. Nothing's changed. That's your choice, and I'll support whatever you decide. Just be prepared for potential contact. After hanging up, Jack resumed his work, refusing to allow Diana's return to disrupt the life he had built. The company needed his focus, particularly with the expansion into East Coast markets scheduled for next quarter. 2 days passed without incident. On the third morning, Jack arrived at his office to find Diana waiting in the reception area. She had aged during her incarceration, her once immaculate appearance now simplified, her clothes replaced by practical business attire. When she saw Jack, she stood, visibly nervous. Jack! Diana. He kept his voice neutral. This is unexpected. I called for an appointment. Your assistant said you were booked solid for weeks. Jack gestured to his assistant. Clear 15 minutes, please. In his office, Diana declined coffee, sitting rigidly in the visitor's chair. You've done well for yourself, she observed, glancing around at the awards and company growth charts on the walls. What do you want, Diana? She met his gaze directly. To see Abby. To try to explain. She doesn't want to see you. Hasn't opened your letters. Hasn't expressed any interest in reconnecting. Diana flinched slightly. She's 17. Almost an adult. Shouldn't she make that decision directly? She has made that decision. I'm simply relaying it. Jack leaned forward. What did you expect, Diana? That 5 years would erase what you did? That she would forget watching you choose Victor and his children over her? Mock her father's efforts to rebuild? Use her grandparents as pawns? I've changed, Diana insisted. Prison gives you time to reflect. Reflection isn't redemption. Jack checked his watch. My 15 minutes are nearly up. Is there anything else? Diana reached into her purse and removed an envelope. Give her this, please. If she chooses not to read it, I'll accept that and leave Portland for good. After Diana left, Jack studied the sealed envelope. He would give it to Abby as promised, respecting her right to decide whether to open it. His own curiosity about Diana's intentions was irrelevant. His priority remained protecting Abby while supporting her growing independence. That evening, he handed Abby the envelope without comment. She stared at it for a long moment. Did you read it? Jack shook his head. It's addressed to you. Your choice whether to open it. Abby placed the envelope on the coffee table. Not today. Maybe not ever. They spent the evening reviewing her RISD acceptance package, discussing housing options and first semester courses. The envelope remained untouched, a physical manifestation of the past that no longer defined their present. The following week brought a scheduled deposition in Seattle, where Winter Shield was providing expert testimony in a major fraud case. Jack was preparing to leave when Abby appeared in his home office doorway, Diana's opened letter in her hand. I read it, she said quietly. Jack set down his briefcase. Do you want to talk about it? She wrote about her therapy in prison, about recognizing patterns from her own childhood that she repeated with Victor. Abby sat on the edge of his desk. It's actually insightful, like she finally sees herself clearly. That's positive, Jack offered neutrally. She's moving to San Francisco next month. Says she understands why I might never want contact, but wanted me to know she accepts responsibility for her choices. Abby looked up. She didn't ask for forgiveness. That shows growth, Jack acknowledged. Real accountability doesn't demand absolution. I don't hate her anymore, Abby said after a moment. But I don't need her in my life either. That's a healthy place to be. Abby folded the letter carefully. She mentioned you too. Said watching you rebuild from what she and Victor did taught her more than prison therapy. Jack absorbed this unexpected acknowledgement. We all make choices. After what happened, I chose to rebuild rather than just survive. You did more than rebuild, Abby pointed out. You created something that helps others. That's why I'm proud to be your daughter. The simple statement affected Jack more deeply than any victory in the long campaign against Victor and Diana. His daughter's recognition of the values that had guided his choices, resilience, integrity, service to others, represented the true triumph over betrayal. The Seattle deposition proceeded smoothly, establishing Winter Shield's evidence as central to the fraud prosecution. While there, Jack received notification that Diana had checked out of her Portland hotel, apparently accepting Abby's decision without further attempts at contact. Returning home, Jack found Noah waiting with unexpected news. Victor died yesterday. Heart attack in the prison exercise yard. Jack absorbed this information with surprising neutrality. The man who had once dominated his thoughts as the architect of destruction was now simply gone. Neither celebration nor regret seemed appropriate. I'll let my parents know, was his only response. That weekend, Jack visited his parents in Florida, a trip scheduled before Victor's death, but now carrying additional significance. He found them thriving in their retirement community, Robert's financial literacy classes at capacity, Patricia's health fully restored. Over dinner on their patio, overlooking the ocean, Jack shared the recent developments, Diana's letter, Abby's response, Victor's death. Do you feel vindicated? His father asked directly. Jack considered the question. Not vindicated. Completed, maybe. Like the final period at the end of a difficult chapter. Are you at peace with it all? His mother pressed. Truly, I think I've been at peace for a while now, Jack realized. Building Winter Shield, watching Abby grow, seeing you both recover, that became more important than what happened before. His father raised his glass. To closing chapters and writing new ones. Returning to Portland, Jack found a small package waiting at his office, a legal document from Diana's lawyer, notifying him that she had established a trust for Abby's education expenses. The accompanying note was brief, no strings attached, no contact expected, simply an acknowledgement of obligation. Jack forwarded the document to his lawyer for review, confirming it contained no hidden conditions that might resurface later. Finding none, he added the information to Abby's college planning folder. she could decide whether to accept it. September brought Abby's departure for RISD, the bittersweet milestone of a child leaving home tempered by pride in her accomplishments and confidence in her future. As they unpacked her dorm room, Abby revealed her decision regarding Diana's trust. "I'm accepting the money," she said without preamble. "Not because I forgive her, but because turning education funds into art that helps others feels like the right kind of justice." Jack nodded approval. "Transformation rather than rejection. That's powerful. I learned from watching you," Abby replied simply. "You took what they did and transformed it into Winter Shield. I'll do the same with my art." Back in Portland, Jack continued expanding Winter Shield's reach, developing new protection protocols and advocacy programs. The company's reputation grew beyond financial security into the broader field of fraud prevention, with Jack increasingly recognized as an authority on the psychology of financial predators. In October, exactly 6 years after Victor's conviction, Jack received a final communication from Diana, a brief email notifying him of her relocation to San Francisco and providing contact information should Abby ever wish to reach out. The message ended with an unexpected acknowledgement. "You won in every way that matters, Jack. Not just against Victor and me, but in creating something meaningful from what we destroyed. I won't contact Abby again. That door remains hers to open if she ever chooses. What I've learned too late is that real family isn't about blood or appearances or social standing. It's about who remains when everything else is stripped away." For Abby, that was always you. Jack didn't respond, but saved the email in a folder he had maintained through the years. Documentation not of the betrayal, but of the recovery and growth that followed. The folder contained milestones of rebuilding, Abby's achievements, his parents' healing, Winter Shield successes, and now this final acknowledgement. The following spring, Winter Shield hosted a conference on fraud prevention, bringing together financial institutions, law enforcement, and victim advocates. Jack delivered the keynote address, sharing insights gained through both professional expertise and personal experience. "The most dangerous predators aren't strangers lurking in shadows," he explained to the assembled audience. "They're those who gain trust, establish relationships, and exploit emotional connections. Their weapons aren't guns or threats, but manipulation and betrayal." As he continued his presentation, outlining the protective systems Winter Shield had developed, Jack realized how completely he had transformed his own experience of betrayal into a force for prevention and protection. The wounds that had once defined him had become wisdom that benefited others. After the conference, Noah approached with news that brought their journey full circle. "Remember the Victor 2.0 case we contained last year? The investigators just found connections to 3 other operations in different cities. They were using our detection protocols to identify targets. So we're actually changing how these schemes operate," Jack noted with satisfaction. "Better than that," Noah grinned. "We're making them extinct. These guys can't function when the red flags are known and systems are in place to spot them." That evening, Jack called Abby at RISD, sharing the news about Winter Shield's expanding impact. "Your warning systems are basically Victor repellent," she laughed. "Poetic justice." Speaking of art and justice, Jack segued. "How's the community project going?" Abby's voice brightened. "Amazing. The exhibition opens next month. My installation is called Reconstructed, taking broken pieces and creating something stronger where they join. The gallery curator says it's powerful. Like you," Jack said simply. After they hung up, Jack stood at his living room window, watching Portland's lights brighten against the evening sky. The journey from betrayal to renewal had been longer and more complex than he could have imagined when he first discovered Diana and Victor's deception. The Christmas when his parents had claimed poverty while lavishing gifts on others, when Abby had whispered, "Aren't we family?" When Jack had realized the depth of betrayal surrounding him. That moment had seemed like an ending. In reality, it had been the beginning of something stronger and more authentic than what had been lost. Jack's phone buzzed with a message from his assistant. The governor's office had called, inviting him to serve on a newly formed commission for financial consumer protection. Another opportunity to transform personal experience into broader protection for others. As he typed his acceptance, Jack reflected on the nature of true victory. It wasn't the downfall of those who had betrayed him, satisfying as that had been. The real triumph lay in what had been built from the ruins, a life of integrity, meaningful work that protected others, and relationships based on genuine trust rather than manipulation. Victor was gone. Diana had acknowledged defeat and withdrawn. But Jack Winters continued building, creating ripples of protection that extended far beyond his personal experience. In the end, that was the most complete form of justice. Not just surviving betrayal, but transforming it into something that made survival more likely for countless others. The foundations rebuilt were stronger than what had been destroyed. Family, defined not by blood, but by loyalty and love. Career, focused on protection rather than profit. Relationships, based on shared values rather than convenience or status. In that transformation lay the final victory. The creation of a legacy that would long outlast the betrayal that had sparked its beginning. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.